Welcome, everyone, to Hello, Ernest at the Kitchen Table, connecting writers and readers. I am Jan Pratt, the author of several children's picture books and also the author of a series of yoga lesson plans for kids.
And I am Gaga Gabarty. I'm a co-author with Judy Lee Butler. Together, we write the Phoebe Cornell Mystery Series. Join us for every episode as we connect readers to your next great read.
All right.
Today, with us, we have Paul Hudon, who has a brand new book out. And Paul is joining us at the kitchen table. And Paul, want to thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to come and visit. And how are you?
Well, thank you so much, Jean. It's a pleasure being here. I'm having a wonderful day. It's a beautiful morning here in Southern Arizona, and I look forward to our conversation very much.
All right, great. Well, Paul, why don't we get started then? And, this is all about connecting writers with their readers and maybe picking up some new people in the whole process. And let's just get started. And people want to know, how did this whole thing begin for you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's always I think for every writer, it's a fascinating story because I'm not sure if anybody ever woke up one morning and said, I'm going to be a writer. I think the universe has a different plan than what we often think. And I became a writer after experiencing an injury in my wood shop, and I really wanted to understand why I allowed myself to ignore my intuition. I had that intuitive feeling. I knew I shouldn't be doing what I was doing. But I went ahead with it anyway. And of course, I ended up in the emergency room, and I wanted to know why I behaved that way. And so I started meditating and reading books on self-help and spirituality. And the deeper I got into it, the more I started realizing that I had a voice inside of me that needed to be heard, that I call my inner voice. And it is the voice of our intuition. And everybody has this voice, but we often ignore it because we have so many other things to do and so many other responsibilities in life. So the saying of write the book you want to find in the bookstore is actually quite true for me. I wasn't finding the books that I needed to get through what I needed to get through. And so writing helped me do that.
Okay.
So,
you referred to ending up in the emergency room. Was this a trigger for your writing career? And can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I always had a habit of a tendency to ignore my intuition because I wanted to please other people, or I had I had bills to pay or things like that. And when I ignored my intuition, things would not turn out all that well. But when I followed my intuition, things worked out great. And sitting in the emergency room, just asking myself why. And so I started writing in a journal, and I wrote in a journal a lot. I would spend 2 hours writing in my journal, just trying to figure out why I chose to ignore my intuition. And then I started looking around the world, and I realized that there are a lot of people out there that are also ignoring their intuition and getting themselves into trouble and not living the life that they're really meant to live, because we all have that intuitive feeling that, oh, I want to pursue this kind of career, or an artistic career, or a creative career, or something like that. And that's what makes us truly happy. But maybe our parents tell us that, no, you should be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or something like that.
Yes.
You'll never, we hear all those lies that you'll never make a living as an artist and that kind of thing. And so for me, I was a carpenter at the time, and I just started writing and writing and realized that, wow, other people need to hear what I'm getting. People need to hear what I'm experiencing. And so that's where writing books actually started for me.
Okay. All right. So given that you had all this experience and a totally different career behind you, do you have a theme or some kind of hope that people get a specific thing out of your writing? Can you share
Mhm.
anything with us?
Sure. For me, I always want people to live to the fullness of who they are, and that is to sort of work through all of the identities that society has placed on us, uh, and to work through all of those things. Because let's see, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I was a carpenter, I am a writer, I'm a motorcyclist, and so there are all of these identities. But underneath all of those, there's one truth of who I am, and I think that's everybody has that truth, and I think a lot of people um, don't live that because they're trying to please all those other people. As a brother, their expectations of who I'm supposed to be. As a son, their expectations of who I'm supposed to be. And we live to those expectations at the cost of our true self. And and so I encourage people to sort of live to their true self, even if it means getting up and moving or leaving a relationship or disappointing your parents or your siblings, because
Yeah.
we all have to be truthful to ourselves.
Yeah, good. I like that approach a lot. And when I'm looking at all of your writing, is there any particular skill that you're trying to bring to the table, some kind of a role that the reader can benefit from then?
Um, I think that if I get your question right, what we're seeking is within us, and I think the skill that I want to create, or is actually to foster a skill within the reader to have the courage to look within themselves, and to say, wow, this isn't right for me, uh, and try to foster that kind of thing uh, in the reader, so the reader can say, wow, I can do this. I can pay attention to my intuition, or I can pay attention to the words that I'm speaking, or I can accept responsibility for my behavior, and
Mhm.
not radically change my life.
Yeah,
So
yeah. All right, great. I like that approach. And so when we start to look at everything that you're writing, what would be the habit that you use? You said you like to do a lot of journaling. So does that help you lay the format or the design for, in fact, you have a most recent book out now. And what is that whole process for you?
um, I'm fortunate that I see lessons everywhere. Uh, you know, I could I can go into a Walmart, um, and I'll start to you walk around any big box store or any place with a lot of people around, and I start to notice my emotions, and I'll think, oh, where's that judgment coming from? And so maybe I'll get back to my desk and I'll write about judgment. And so I see lessons everywhere I go, and inspiration for my writing everywhere I go. And then I'll come home and I'll write about it in my journal. Um, and then sometimes I get inspiration from reading. Last night I sat down to read, and I read one paragraph, and I thought, oh, I have to write my weekly, and I knew exactly what I wanted to write about in my weekly, because I send out a weekly email every Tuesday morning. And so I'm fortunate that I get inspiration just about everywhere I look, and journaling definitely helps me with that. But I'm
Yeah.
aware of the inspiration too. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, I have a
Yeah.
if I come upon a subject that really interests me, or I get a flash in the mind, I'll write it down. Oh, I could write about that. So
All right. Yeah, good. What do you have any favorite authors or any particular genre that you like to draw inspiration from?
um, right now my reading is pretty much all over the map. I don't have any particular genres. Um, I'm a I'm a student of the world. I have a great thirst for knowledge. If I see something I don't know, um, or I don't understand, and I'll find a book to read about it, even if it makes me uncomfortable. Um, I read I a number of years ago. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, which challenged me as a white New Englander, which was great though because that made me get to see um, another view of the world. So most of my reading, I like to challenge myself so I can, because not all of my beliefs um, benefit me, and so I'm constantly learning. So I read a lot of nonfiction more than anything else.
Okay, all right. And from that, it sounds like you're open to just about any kind of input. So when I think about that, you have to have a certain kind of discipline or a certain level of discipline, but also that creative thinking and the environment that you're creating for yourself. How do you mesh the two, that creativity with discipline?
Um, I think if you love what you do, it's not that much of an issue. Excuse me.
Ah,
It's not that much of an issue because I
okay.
love to write, and if I'm having uh, a stressful day, I'll turn to writing. I'll just write in my journal, uh, and so my first two books were written between 9 o'clock and 10:30 at night, and and then my most recent book, I wrote I can write anywhere. My wife and I moved from Colorado to Southern Arizona, and I would write in the hotel room because it was a 2 day drive to get to where we live now, and I would write. I mean, I've written in hotel rooms, I've written in national parks, I've written at my mom's house in New England, and so I'm like I said, writing centers me. So I look to that when I need some relief, which is probably contrary to a lot of writers. I don't get stressed out when I write. I get relaxed when I write, and I'm fortunate.
Mhm, mhm. And it sounds like that creativity actually morphs into a bit of a discipline so that
Mhm.
you go to it as kind of a self-help almost.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I never experienced writer's block. I don't know what that is. I can always write something.
You're so lucky. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm fortunate with that, but I can always find something to write about.
Okay, yeah,
So,
good. And then what about the editing side of it? Now you have all of this that you've written. How do you edit or what happens then?
I I really enjoy the editing process. I'm probably an outlier on that. Um, and so I write in Microsoft Word, and then I listen to it because there's a read aloud function, um,
Okay.
which takes a little while to get used to the voice. And I kind of wish the voice was the voice of Nicole Kidman, but I can't have everything in life. So it's a little Microsoft computer voice. Um, but that really helps me out because the whole intention of editing is to create the best work possible, and listening to it really helps me do that. I'm used to the rhythm of the computer voice, and uh, I can either catch a comma, take a comma out, or sometimes we forget words, but when we actually physically read the book or read the writing, we can read right over it. Our mind will either fill it in or take out a word if it's not supposed to be there. Um, so our mind can play tricks on us when we just read our own work. And so that's why I like to listen to it. And then when I send my book off to the editors, I actually look forward to hearing what the editor has to say, because I'm not an English major. I enjoyed wood shop and when I was in high school. And so um, it's nice to have a professional go through it. And again, to see it as creating the best work possible, not as, oh, look what they did to my work. And in a way, you have to take your ego out of it. You have to take your ego out of it and say, okay, we're trying to create the best work possible. And you don't have to agree with everything your editor says, um, but they're looking out for your best interest and the trying to create the best work as you are.
Yeah, good piece of advice. For aspiring writers, those just kind of getting into the trade or the hobby or whatever it is for each of us, one piece of advice?
One, uh, trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. That's the best piece of advice because you know what you want. If it feels great, it feels wonderful, and if you're excited when you're writing it, trust that and go with that. If
Good.
it's writing can be, I'm sure at certain points, writing can be a grind for some, but if you're still loving it and you feel like you're on the right path, go with it.
Good. Thank you for that. That's great. I will use that advice, I think. What do you think's going to happen? Now, you've got another book that's come out this year, just recently. And in the coming years, the next 5, any idea of where you'll be?
I'll still be writing. I, I'm enjoying not having to focus on a book right now. Having just published this book just about a month ago, I'm enjoying just having it out there and sending it out to book contests and things like that. But I do plan on I have a few workshops coming up in August and September. So my intention is to continue to write another book or continue to write books and do workshops and speaking events. So that's where I
Okay.
see myself in 5 years.
Okay, all right. And growing the speaking side of your writing, is that new for you, or have you been doing that? And are you available for speaking assignments?
I am available. Yes, with the past few books, the first 2 books, I did some speaking engagements, did some workshops, some journaling workshops, which are always good. And so I'm encouraged by that. And so that's a big step forward for me. Because I enjoy this. I enjoy the face to face. I enjoy the conversation.
Well, yeah, you're very comfortable to talk with and just
Thank you.
have a conversation. It's not a discussion, it's not an interview, it is a conversation. So I thank you for that. You mentioned that you have a new book out, and would you care to read from that book? Share with
I
us?
would. I would. And
All
so
right.
here it is. I'll show you a little. It's titled Abundance to Zen, Wisdom for a Fulfilling Life. So the format of if you have time, I'll give you a brief idea of the
Yeah.
format. I had this crazy idea. It was a challenge. I gave myself a challenge to see if I could write the alphabet. And so what I did was each letter of the alphabet is a chapter, and within each chapter are mini chapters with words beginning with the same letter as the main chapter. So the letter A has abundance, accountability, associates, and authenticity. And the fun thing is no chapter is larger than 800 words. So you can pick it up at any time. It's only 2.5 pages, or no, it's only 2 pages. So you could pick up the book anytime and read a chapter quickly. And the intention was so that you could read it before you go to bed or in the morning before you rush out the door. You could just open it up anywhere and read it. And I went through the whole alphabet from A to Z with that format. Y was a little tough, and so was Z, to find words that actually sort of made sense in sort of the self-help, but not the sappy sort of self-help. There's a chapter on haters. There's a chapter on monsters, the ones we have in our head that tell us we can't do anything right. And but there's also a chapter on grace and love. So it was fun. It was fun to write, and it was a challenge for me. And
All right, great. Well, let's hear a little taste of what you've written in this new book.
okay, and so the chapter I've chosen, I just opened it up anywhere before you and I started speaking, and I came to the chapter of own it. And so here we go. Why is it when things work out well for us, we accept all the credit, but when events fall apart, we run from our responsibilities, pointing the finger of blame towards others? In a way, we will do whatever we can to avoid being the one who has to take responsibility for our failures. What would happen if instead of behaving this way, we owned our failures as well as our successes? When we were children, we never wanted to be accused of being at fault. So we would come up with excuses to avoid punishment. The dog ate my homework. Yet as adults, we must take a different position and own our mistakes, even our shortcomings. This can be a challenge because we don't want to be seen as a failure or a person who cannot be counted on. If we continue to sidestep accountability, we will never learn the important lessons failures have to teach us. So that's from the chapter on Own It.
Great, good. I like that. Especially the comment about the dog ate the homework. That is still an excuse used today in schools from what my teacher friends tell me. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, great. Thank you for that. That's excellent. Well, thank you for sharing with us today, a little bit out of your schedule. And we appreciate you coming to the kitchen table and talking to us about you as a writer, the person side of it. And I've enjoyed it, and I thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Gene. It's been a pleasure.
It has been. Thank you, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, Gene.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this informal conversation with today's author.
Join us next time as we connect writers and readers around the kitchen table.